I'd like to call the meeting to order. At this time, we will begin with item number 2, public comment. We're going to start with Charlene Avery. You'll state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Charlene Avery. Can everyone hear me? No, Don. I know last time I was been over like that. Okay, does my time start? My name is Charlene Avery. My address is 4523 Topaz Trail, obviously Sugarland 77479. I have a few questions that I hope can be answered today. How can citizens get in touch with the AAB members? Can a government email possibly be set up for them? It is my understanding that the AAB members can ask for a subject to be put on the agenda with the chairman's approval, but the city staff would decide when and if they will do it. It makes it difficult for these members to do the job they were appointed to do. I have asked for the bylaws via open records request, but only received documents of when the board expanded, but not any bylaws relating to the rules relating to the membership. If there are any, then it appears that a member should be able to put a concern on the agenda if they so desire. Also, putting the PPP on the website with agenda 72 hours in advance would be extremely helpful. This would be considered a supporting document and is necessary for the AAB members and the public to understand what will be discussed so we can ask more pertinent questions. Why is regionalization the determining factor in hiring 2 interim managers instead of a director? I'm just really trying to understand the thought process. I would think that hiring a compassionate, experienced director would be a top priority. Regionalization research I know is still ongoing, but I believe the AAB members as well as the public should have the right and opportunity to voice our opinions on this. Using flawed and ineffective processes will only make any problems we currently have more exacerbated. I've personally received disturbing reports that feeders at the First Colony Mall have been banned from the site for over a year. These feeders have been feeding the cats there for approximately a year. That is part of the TNR process. The cats become dependent on feeders so that they can be more easily trapped. They were asked to help and are now extremely upset that no one from the city would return a phone call or their emails. There is an older couple that have been going to feed the cats at this moment, but they don't even live in Sugarland. That's how much they care about these cats. And they will not be able to do this much longer. I've been in touch with Danny Cornelius, and I appreciate him reaching out to me after I had reached out to him. I'll talk to you later, Danny. And Best Friends have stated via email to me on December 9th that they have not met with any from the shelter, and they are really eager to get started. I really need someone to step up today and get written approval from the mall managers and security so that this regular feeder can return. She's worked really hard at trapping some, paying for them to get spay neutered herself, taking kittens and getting adopted out and paying for food. She does this for the love she has for the animals and all of the cats. She's also a volunteer and foster for Sugarland as well. I'm sure you can reach out to her today with the documentation she will need so that she can just move forward with that effort. And thank you all for all of your hard work. And I want to thank each and every shelter employee, volunteer, and staff member for listening to me today. Thank you.
Anna Wright Latham, you will state your name and address.
My name is Diana Wright Latham. I live at 251 Cedar Elm Lane. 251 Cedar Elm Lane in Sugarland. And my questions that I would like to get an update on, at least if nothing else, or if they haven't been addressed yet, wondering when they will. It's mainly, my concern is the way the euthanasia situation was handled. The conflicting information between what the City of Sugarland's press release was versus the standard operating procedures at the shelter. they don't match, and that there's a blatant difference, discrepancy in them, where the press release states that a veterinarian is supposed to check the animal out hands-on in person and determine what quality of life they have, what the appropriate thing would be to do for them, if they can be helped anymore, and if so, what they should do, versus what the standard operating procedures say, basically that a staff can look at the animal and just through a phone call can let the vet know what they think, and determining whether an animal should be euthanized or not on someone that has no medical background, no credentialing of any kind, and not having the direct contact that a licensed veterinarian should have to make a determination that drastic. Really is upsetting, and it's those things need to be in sync with what they need to correct the SOP to make it match what the press release is that was issued by our city of Sugar Land. So those things don't fall in the cracks. Also, the act of euthanasia is required to be done by a veterinarian, not just someone that's on staff, whether they're the director or someone that cleans cages. Nobody should be able to euthanize an animal that's not licensed and know exactly what they're doing. And from what I've been told and everything I've read, there's no one that has a medical credentialing full-time on staff at the shelter. And I'm trying to figure out why that was allowed. And who's responsible for that. And the third thing is the medication itself. They're controlled substances and need to be issued by someone that is a licensed practitioner in the medical field. And how did the staff members get the medication? Because that's not something that they're allowed to keep on hand, because they don't have a full-time veterinarian on hand or anyone in the medical field. So I'm just wondering, these are ones that we found out 5 months after the fact. And I'm wondering if there's others that have been done the same way that we just don't know about yet. And if so, where does it stop? I think the first thing that needs to be done is to get these SOP to have the same verbiage as what the press release was. Thank you.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, my name's Lynn Harpham. I live at 4003 Brenner Court in Sugar Land. The failures of Sugar Land's animal services are not the fault of the hardworking shelter staff, the volunteers, or an uncaring public who doesn't care about animals and dumps their problems on our city. The failure to identify and implement a successful strategy for animal services lies with our city manager, our mayor, and our city council. And while we listen to their excuses, other communities are using elements of an innovative strategy called the no-kill equation, which is a system of 11 different proven methods which work together to ensure a shelter's success. Huntsville, Alabama, for example, has used this system, and they now save 95% of their animals, up from 34%. They've also reduced their intake from 10,000 to 5,000 animals each year. Pima County, Arizona uses this method, and they've created a foster care program for dogs with behavioral problems. And now 90% of those dogs have normal behavior and help them develop a 93% save rate. Bucks County, Pennsylvania used another part of the equation by partnering for offline adoption centers. And they now save 94%. Fremont, Colorado has implemented part of this equation with strategies like low-cost microchipping and a community food program, and their save rate is above 98%. Finally, Lake County, Florida began implementing the equation methods in 2017 in a dilapidated facility with a skimpy budget. They very quickly got to a 99% save rate, and that includes even in 2021, which was the most difficult year yet for shelters across the country. These communities all have one thing in common: innovative leadership that embraced proven methodologies. I'm passing around a handout after I speak. If anyone wants to know more about this, my contact information is on there and a link to a video. So I really believe we have city leaders who genuinely want us to do better, but I think we have others who would love to just kick this problem down the road about 20 miles. And they're going to tell us how wonderful things are at a regional animal center up in Georgetown called the Williamson County Shelter. I spent 3.5 hours there recently. They have an amazing director who has things we can learn from, but they're not reducing their intake. In fact, they've grown it from 5,000 to 8,000. They don't have a volunteer schedule like Sugar Land has. Most of their dogs don't even get 1 walk a day, let alone 2. Finally, I'd just like to say that we are well within our rights to demand that our tax dollars be used more effectively, and we should seize this opportunity. Once the city makes this decision, it's over for us. Okay, so please educate yourself, meet with your leaders, ask them why there's no strategy, tell them there's no acceptable reason for Sugar Land tax money to fund a shelter which underperforms the average shelter in this country. Tell them that we want animal services a core service. We want it delivered right here in Sugar Land using a strategy based on proven methodology. Thank you.
Okay, next, Laura, Ahmed, please state your name and address.
Hi, everybody. I'm Farah Ahmed. I'm a 30-year resident of Sugar Land, and we adopted a dog, Daisy, from the Fort Bend shelter during COVID. And, I have many concerns, and so do a lot of my neighbors and residents. And what we're concerned about, we are concerned that the city is not going to use its $5 million+ to improve or expand the shelter or even build a new one. We're concerned that the city is not allocating enough funds to educate the public and set up a very strong adoption and foster program that's consistent. And set up programs like where spade and neutering is either subsidized or for free. These are programs that we should be collaborating with other cities and with the county. We're also concerned that the city really hasn't issued a detailed report on the violations by the Animal Services Department and staff. So we really don't know what we did wrong in terms of hiring people with no oversight, it seems, hiring people that eventually violate our policies and sadly and needlessly euthanize dozens of animals. Again, I want to thank the citizens here. You are all volunteering on this board. I want to thank you for your time. Six Ellicott Way.
Hi, it's Pansy Chung, 2731 Country Club Boulevard. So first of all, thank you so much for letting me speak again today. I want to thank the city for posting the meeting videos as promised, and as well as posting the Safe Rate reports on your website. First, I want to bring up again that it seems like we still haven't gotten answers about the $6 million bond that was approved for the new shelter back in 2017 when the annexation happened. As I mentioned last time, another $2 million supplemental cost was supposed to be fundraised, which was discussed in the previous AAB meetings prior to COVID. As I dug deeper, I realized that the Sugar Land Legacy Foundation still has the shelter expansion project as one of their fundraising projects on the website. So is Sugar Land Legacy Foundation still fundraising? Switching gears, I want us to consider the following prior to another discussion of regionalization. I want to remind us a concern that we had during the 2017 annexation. We have all agreed at the time that our animal shelter is not equipped enough to provide municipal services for another 30,000 residents who were annexed into Sugar Land at the time. That was when the citizens voted and the city agreed that Sugar Land had to expand its animal services to maintain the level of service we had at the time. And not to excuse any wrongdoings, but it would not shock me that things would transcribe to the way they did as the new shelter that was supposed to resolve issues of overcrowdedness never happened. Now imagine instead of correcting the mistake, we move on to merging animals from our current shelter to another overcrowded shelter. I say that because the municipal shelters around our area are all struggling with overcrowdedness, and some of which may not even have the resources that we do. To my knowledge, the only shelter that is larger than Sugar Land Animal Shelter is Fort Bend County Animal Shelter, and they're not no-kill and they're struggling as well. It sounds like all shelters in our surrounding areas are fighting the same issues as we have, so I cannot begin to imagine how any one of them can serve another additional 100,000 residents in Sugar Land effectively. Regionalizing doesn't make overcrowding go away. It creates new problems to replace the old. So please consider again that the problems we have at Sugar Land Animal Shelter can be resolved. Once we embrace the no-kill equation and the community, we will be surprised how many members of the community can champion our cause. We will also see an influx of funding and grants from other nonprofits that we can use to support our current shelter and build a new one. And also, I know recently the shelter's been closed, and I kind of took the liberty I just came up with some the rescues that I reached out to. Maybe I can send their list to you in case you guys haven't used it. Oh, and also something that
Comments submitted.
No, we have no one else signed up for public comment.
Quick public comment and move on to item number 3, minutes. Motion to approve the meeting minutes for November 8th, 2022.
I make a motion that the minutes from the last meeting be approved.
I second.
Okay, that passed.
Was that Ronan or was it Mary? Okay.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now we will move on to item number 4, workshop item A, review of and discussion on animal shelter update. Dawn Stell.
Okay. So I'm going to run through a couple of updates on the shelter today. So a staffing update. This is a running log since the situation that occurred in September of where we are on hiring staff. There are 3 positions we have in recruitment now. We had 2 animal services officers start on the 12th, so we're happy to have them on board. And so the animal services officers are all filled. So all 4 spots are filled now. A new change is the veterinarian that we hired on a part-time basis will be full-time beginning January 23rd. So we're excited to have her come on board as a full-time basis to be at the shelter the majority of the time. We are still utilizing those temporary staffing agencies right now because we still do not have a vet tech. So we're still utilizing the RU staffing agencies for 2 vet techs. And we're still utilizing the executive team for 2 kennel techs just to help maintain the shelter. As of yesterday, this is the number of animals in our care right now. Oh, that is a typo. That should be 29, not. No, I think it should be, let me check my text to correct this. It obviously didn't erase what I told it to erase. I believe it's 39. 29. Okay, it's 29. And then what are the other ones? That is an error. 29, it should be 29, 2, 19, 3, and 53. So we will get that corrected before it's posted on the city website, just to make that change. And so we have 47 dogs at the shelter. We have 29 cats at the shelter, and then offsite. So offsite means PetSmart or Pet Suites right now. So there's 2 and 2 offsite. We have 19 cats in foster, 4 dogs in foster, and then 3 cats on sleepovers and 2 dogs on sleepovers. So that is what our animals in care look like at the moment. So operations. So just to give you an update, since our last meeting on Friday, November 11th, we moved all cats that remained at Jahostic Park back to the shelter, and we were only operating then under 1 location, which was a huge help with staffing. Whiskerville was still closed due to the Pan-Luc and the Khaleesi virus symptoms. So on Saturday, the 12th, we started to lift that quarantine depending on what rooms the cats were in. Each room came off a quarantine on different days, depending on the symptoms. And then on Tuesday, December 6th, due to the intake of dogs, we did have to close capacity for people bringing in dogs to the shelter. We had dogs in pop-up kennels in the hallway, in the lobby. And that is what the capacity for care states, is that we should close intake until we bring animals back down. And I know Jillian got on the phone and was working really hard to get fosters and get rescue groups to come and pull dogs to help us with that, which we'll cover more in a few minutes. Right now, we are in the process of conducting training, 3 full days of training with the Chameleon. And that is the software that we use for everything that happens at the shelter. We are taking a fresh look on what that software can do, what we utilize, what we don't utilize, what we should be utilizing, and changing and improving those processes to track everything, to be able to have reports at a push of a button. And then after we get through the first 2 days of modifying how we're using it, it'll be a full day of training for staff. And then we're also going to train some of the volunteers so that they can get into Chameleon and help us as well. So we're definitely going to have some big changes with Chameleon, which we're excited about. The foster program update. So Jillian's done a great job. We have 134 approved fosters right now. Now, that doesn't mean they're all active, because some are very specific on the type of animal, but we do have that list. On the 8th, she pushed out an email to everybody, no matter what their preferences was, that explained our need for fosters. We do have a need for medical fosters as well. So she's been pushing out that messaging through the foster distribution list, as well as on social media. You see this cute little post that she pushed out. So we're definitely trying to get that information out there to get as many fosters as we can. So partners and transfers. So we continue, she does a great job continuing to reach out to rescue groups and nonprofits and other shelters to help with us by pulling animals. Most are over capacity, even across the state are over capacity. But I did want to highlight the number of transfers we've had since September. So as you can see, so this one is dogs only. So we've transferred a total of 31 dogs from September through today. And these are the various organizations that we've utilized. And then cats is much larger. So we've transferred 155, and the majority of those obviously were in conjunction with that hoarding case that we had of 138 plus cats. And so these again are all of the organizations that we are talking to and transferring animals to. And a lot of these partnerships are due to our partnership with Best Friends. They have actively been reaching out to their partners as well to try to help have them come and help us by pulling animals. So we definitely appreciate everything that Best Friends of Houston is doing for us. right
Dawn,
now.
what's the time frame on this?
So this is
transfers?
September through now. And again, our partnership with Best Friends, they are continuing to help us in any way, and we appreciate it so much. They're continuing to identify transfer partners. They're continuing to help us with, protocols and trainings as we need them. And then they're providing educational materials that we can take as a template and kind of tweak and edit it for us, which Jillian is working on a couple of things right now that you'll see over the next month that gets pushed out on social media, on our website, through our listservs as well. Some monthly reports, they are posted on the website starting from June of this year. This is the November report, and it will be posted on the website after this meeting. We have been looking at the reports, and I know that we recently had a question about the reports, and are we going to go back and investigate and update the reports for however many years back? That's not an effective use of our time. An effective use is looking at what we're doing now and moving forward and making sure the reports are 100% accurate going forward. And that's where our focus is going to be. And we will continue to publish these reports every month after the Animal Advisory Board meeting so that y'all can see them and ask questions first. So this is the November report. Again, the total save rate of 91.36%. For cats, it's 85.7%. And for dogs, it's 94.3%. We do have Chameleon here. And so we are talking to them about our report and how we can clean it up a bit just on how things are shown. And so this report may look slightly different for the December, like once we get through that training and we implement that. But it'll still be an accurate representation of what's going on at the shelter.
Best Friends, they have a very similar monthly report.
Correct.
Can we work with them and see what we can learn from them in this regards?
So if I'm not mistaken, their report is built into Chameleon. And so you will probably see potentially their report going forward. I don't know yet. We're not through it yet, but we are looking at that right now.
Okay, wonderful. I like the way that they do it. And I looked at,
Yes.
there were some changes on our website. But one of them says, like, for example, which is a good thing that we don't euthanize healthy animals. But like if we're subtracting 0 every month, that just seems to be something that we could cut out for simplification reasons.
Correct. Yes. So it will be slightly different on the next time you see it. And then y'all
Okay.
can ask, questions. If you don't like something or you like something, we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Okay, wonderful. I'm really glad you're working with them.
Any other questions on the monthly report from the board? Okay. So SOPs and policies, we have finally, as you can see, moved everyone back to one location. We're starting to get staffing on board. So we're starting to have the time to look at the SOPs, compare them to what we're doing and then what we should be doing. So we will be starting to make edits to those SOPs. And my goal is to send those changes to you. Gary, it'll be an ongoing process, but as we make changes each month to send those out to y'all prior to the board meeting, and then we can talk about them. So you'll start to see that going forward at our board meetings. We're obtaining copies from other entities and checking out the best practices to see what should we be doing. And then also by having Dr. Bender, who's been at various shelters here at our shelter full time, like having her input and review of them as well. So we will begin to do that prior to the January board meeting. We were contacted by a local artist from Missouri City that is willing to donate this beautiful artwork to us. So I want to just highlight this to y'all. We are working to accept this donation to be displayed at the shelter. The same artwork is on a traffic box here in Sugar Land already, but she's going to paint it on a canvas to then go inside the shelter. So fun little thing that's coming our way, which we're excited about. So upcoming events, I'm actually going to hand this over to Jillian and let her talk through the various events because she's been working really hard on this. And I don't want to steal her thunder. You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Jillian Henshaw. So as you might know, we did have to cancel the November 19th pop-up shop. It is going to be rescheduled for the spring. We're looking at some different dates, we don't want to impede on like spring break or looking at different school calendars and that sort of thing. So it will be in the spring, but we don't know the exact date just yet. We have to compare with parks, recreations, and a couple of different other factors. Tomorrow, we have our volunteer Yappy Hour. I am beginning to do this monthly in a rotation of social versus an educational piece. So in January, I'm trying to get a trainer out to help, for instance, our dog walkers to have a better understanding of behavioral aspects. And then we have Home for the Holidays, which is this Saturday. It's at the Fort Bend County Fairgrounds, and it is essentially an enormous adoption event between Stafford, Missouri City, us, and then a couple of other regional areas, which Best Friend is also helping to support. Then this weekend, we also have Petco Love Adoption, which is Saturday and Sunday. And then if you are interested in holiday photos, there is a fundraiser on Sunday between 1 and 4 at Creative Pet Clips. If you want to get your animal groomed, you're welcome to, but they're doing a photo shoot where all proceeds are donated to the shelter. So again, for the spring, we're going to have the pop-up shop rescheduled. Once we get that information, we will share that. We're going to do a live stream pup strut so you can see some of the potential candidates who ideally will have less after we have this adoption event on Saturday. And I did just confirm on December 30th, we're doing a small adoption event, more like 2 or 3 dogs because alcohol is on site. So to keep things safe, we'll have less animals for that event, but just something in-house to also showcase animals that are still available with us. So that's the plan for this year.
So this is the official flyer. You might have seen on some of the billboards around town. We actually connected with someone else within Sugar Land who's going to help us to try to get this on Smart Financial Center billboard. And with this, we're just advertising if you know you're looking for an animal and maybe Stafford doesn't have one. For instance, we are taking far more cats than any of the other local shelters. So if you're looking for a cat, good chances are you might find them with us. And adoption fees are waived.
And one more thing to highlight on this mega adoption event, the shelter is closed on Friday for us to be at the fairgrounds to set up all the kennels and the spaces to store the animals. And we will also be closed on Saturday. And so we're directing everybody on Saturday to come to the event. So there'll be a ton of animals who need homes at the event. And with that, I'll ask if there's any questions from the board.
Don, I had one, last month, I think we talked about there were potential other hoarding cases. Can you give us an update on those?
Danny? I don't want to misspeak.
So there was one specifically. So there was one specifically, I don't remember the address, that we were working on. It was a realtor who gave us a call and said that the potential client had too many cats at their residence. Before we could get there and figure out what the issue was, the realtor contacted back and said that they had removed all the animals there. So it's kind of more of a civil issue with trying to get the house renovated to sell. So there's no more animals at that residence.
So was that the spot where Dawn talked about that there were several hoarding and she didn't give us any other details, but she did say one of them that when the animal control officers went out to look into it, that you could smell it outside. Is that
Yes,
that one? Okay, I just didn't know if there were
Yes, ma'am.
others. Okay, well, that's great.
Yes.
Can we have an update on the TNR?
I am
Or
doing
is
that, but I can do it now. It was under my director update.
Oh, sorry, I
So-
wasn't
no,
sure.
No, you're fine. It's fine right now. So TNR, we have not implemented as quickly as we like with everything happening. Danny and I have gotten plugged into that program and where we are and all the presentations that we had with the volunteers and meetings with best friends. Unfortunately, the mall management staff has changed over completely. We recently found that out with an email and a voicemail from the volunteer who is feeding at the mall. So Danny has reached out and we are scheduling a meeting with them to talk about what we had already talked about with the previous management, to see if they're willing to allow us to continue. It is private property. It is up to the mall to allow us or not. So we will be having those conversations as soon as we can get a meeting with them. And then our goal is to, if they're on board, to start to move that program forward as well. So that's kind of our holdup right now. We've got a partner for the spay and neuters. And so that's all kind of checked off. Now we just got to get permission to conduct the pilot. Any other questions from the board? Okay.
Item number 4, workshop item B, review of and discussion on animal shelter partnership option, Roberts Valley Way.
Good afternoon. Update, yes. Good afternoon, board. So just a quick update on where we are with things. If you recall, last time I came to you, we talked about developing an internal team and beginning the research process, tons of questions. The bond question is one of those. What happens to that? That is something that we will be looking into. To date, we've had a couple of internal meetings, probably 3 or so. Our research is pretty much getting to this final point. We've been able to identify partnership agreements is basically where we're living with our research, is looking at partnership agreements that exist out there. The Williamson County is one agreement we are looking at from a county to kind of this regional type model. There's agreements out there from a nonprofit, so the SPCAs of the world, to a city. What does that look like? We looked at other ones that are, cities to city type agreements, and what do they look like? A lot of that is to help us understand from those services that are provided. And I think that's what some of the public discussion was earlier of ensuring that we have these types of discussions of moving forward. Simultaneously, the work that Don's doing with the animal shelter group, looking at SOPs and documenting those and policies and those types of things. We want to understand where we're at today. What do these agreements have in them? What would something look like moving forward? Meeting wise, with external folks, we are starting that process now. Once we understand kind of what the agreements look like from a service level standpoint, as well as other things, we're going to want to start to engage with people to understand interest and concerns and those types of things. And so we have started that process. We've had our first meeting with one partner. We're going to look for many others to start talking to, and we're probably going to go model by model. And so we're going to want to visit with the county. We're going to want to visit with the nonprofits. We're going to want to visit with other cities just to kind of gain their feedback as we move forward. That's going to be important from our perspective as we start to start making decisions and understanding concerns and how do you mitigate them. Is it worth us running down this path, or that one we chased it, but there really wasn't viable. Let's move on to this other one. Those are things that we're going to want to understand as we move forward. And so with the holidays coming up, it's probably going to be sometime in mid-January before we pick it back up and start running again. But for now, that's kind of where we're at. So, there you go. Next steps. So we'll continue to conduct our research and on the regional options. We'll come back, and like I told you at the beginning, we're going to tell you everything that we know you'll know as we move forward. And then we will obviously get your input and your feedback, and then we'll take it to city council for their ultimate decision at some point in the future. So that's kind of where we're at. Any questions?
Robert, can you tell me what you mean by internal team?
Yeah, so obviously something like this isn't made, these types of recommendations aren't made in silos. When we say silos, they're not made by myself or by Dawn. We have a group of city staff present with us who are part of the team, who are actively engaging with the team, helping us conduct research, conduct analysis, helping us set up meetings and navigate the process. And so we have folks from city attorney's office, from our budget and finance group, from our communication group, from public work, ENS, myself. There's just a really good diverse group of folks on board. Accounting's in there as well. Very interesting because you get different perspectives the more people you get in the room. And so getting their feedback, their pushback is something that I look for when we put teams together, because there again, the power of many is better than mine at the end of the day. So.
Okay, so just to clarify, it is not a city council task force.
No. This is, so when we do projects at the city, we assemble all our friends together, and we come into rooms like this and we spend hours kind of going through them at the end of the day. And so at the end of the day, what happens is we're charged to make a recommendation and conduct analysis and make a recommendation. We will do that. But we're going to utilize a diverse group of city staff to help us make that recommendation.
All right, let's go over this bond issue again.
Yep.
All right, we all voted and approved this bond issue. We approved a tax increase on our property taxes to pay for this.
Mhm.
One, has that increase gone into effect? Two, what has the money that we have voted on gone to besides the much needed relief from flooding, which we know that was the primary issue on that bond, but I want to know where we are on all that. Thanks.
So a couple things, and there again, I'm not the finance person, as that's why we have finance people on our team. But from my understanding, and if I misspeak, please just give me a little bit of grace and we'll go back and correct if I misspeak. From my understanding was the bond election was held, the vote was taken place, the residents did approve the bond. The tax rate has not been increased to for us in order to sell that portion of that debt. So the debt hadn't been sold. I think there's been a little bit sold for the design contract. If you remember the last time we talked about, there was a timing piece from a design standpoint. The debt may have been sold. A little bit of that debt may have been sold to accomplish that task, but the bulk of it has not been sold yet. And so to do that, that's where the tax increase comes from. And so my understanding is city council hasn't raised the tax to accommodate that portion of that debt at the end of the day. So it's still in the books. It's still, the residents have voted for it. We just got to figure out, how it moves forward with it.
Question, so you're gonna go through all of this with your internal team and come back with a recommendation on a partnership or not? And let's say you do, let's say you think it's a great thing just from the, pardon me, rose-colored glasses maybe that you're wearing or whatever. And you recommend it to city council. Well, what if it's not what the citizens want? What if it's not what's best for the animals? What if Sugarland is used to having better facilities and treatment of their animals than anybody they're partnering with? And so when do the citizens' wishes come into this whole process and the animals' wishes?
Yeah, so a couple, good question, great question. I'm glad you asked. Because I didn't mention that, but as part of this process, I went through the very high level pieces of it, but kind of from a process, the way it works through, I would envision that there would be a workshop with city council, obviously a discussion with this board, being able to capture citizen feedback at that point, to capture your feedback at this point from a board perspective. When it makes its way through council, it's, having workshops with city council for their, again, public input. When it goes forward for a recommendation, there's opportunities, since it is agenda item, there is opportunities for public input as well. So there's ways to capture the public input as we move through the process.
Can I ask, actually, there was a question about bylaws, like just in the past, y'all have brought up to us when like there's any public comments or complaints or just suggestions. Do you happen to know how many emails or how often citizens have reached out on this topic and what they expressed? Is there like a rough overview of the feedback that you have already?
I don't have numbers. I can see if I can get them. So communications has a platform called Zen City, and it can monitor like sentiment of social media. And so we have gotten a sentiment report when the incident was happening and the hoarding case happened. So we have those tools at our fingertips too, but I don't have a number to give you, but I can work and try to have one next meeting.
Okay, yeah, it'd just be interesting to know what the public feedback so far is. And then also just because it seems like an awful lot of resources are going into all of this research. It's just how soon can we get the public? How wise is it to put so many resources towards a program before getting the public input and the board input? I would just hope that you would take in our opinions and feedbacks, like Ellen mentioned, before putting too much research, too much of your own resources into this, because, we all value our resources and want to see them used wisely.
Understand. Thank you.
I have one more comment,
Yes,
please. I'm sorry. Several months ago, I used the word rhetoric, and I think that's what we are really seeing now. The public wants to see something. We don't need meetings, and we don't need agendas, and we don't need luncheons. We need action. We have been on the board many times, and one of the things that a lot of times the public doesn't know is how expert the board is and how important the board is to run the shelter and under animal welfare. We hear a lot, we don't see a lot. We see planning, but we don't see anything as a person who's a member in Sugarland. We members of the board are getting letters that we have never approved to receive from people who have investigated our names and phone numbers and their rhetoric. And by reading their letters, it's very obvious that they're aware that they are not educated in our problem. I mean, it's very aware. And at the end of, before we close, I want to bring that up. But I think if the public could see something, even a sign on that location that we are going to build, that there's coming to be a location, I think that would diffuse a lot of the issues. Anybody can have a meeting, but we need to have results. And that's exactly what the public has wanted. Now, when the board came and we were told that we were going to have a bond issue, we were fourth in line and we were cut $2.4 million off of the required amount. If we let it sit there with rate of inflation, by the time the shelter is up, we're going to need probably another 4 million to compensate for the 2.4 million of our shortfall, plus another 2 million to compensate for the inflation and cost of everything. Meanwhile, people don't understand what we're doing. They don't understand the expertise that's coming here. And they think that probably we just enjoy drinking water and taking time out. So I think we need to be more visual, and I think, as I will discuss at the end, I think we need to start pushing back against the public because they are uneducated and unaware. And some of the things they don't even care or knowledge to be informed about. And we're getting it into our private homes, and that personally has to stop.
It looks like Meredith Reedy, our city attorney, would like to say something.
No, I was just gonna say this is very good information. However, this
Move on to item number 5, Director's Report, item A, Program Update, upcoming agenda topics, and review concerns. Dawn Stamp.
Okay, so we already hit the TNR pilot program and that it's under new mall management. And then I also wanted to address, I know we've gotten a lot of questions lately by email about the PowerPoints for the board. And just as y'all know, we're now sending the PowerPoints to y'all ahead of time. My goal is always Friday before, but I got to you on Saturday of this meeting. So I apologize for being a day late, and that will continue going forward. But those PowerPoints are only provided to the board. However, going forward, starting in 2023, all boards and commission PowerPoints will be posted on the city website. So as I've shared on the link with y'all before, there's the meetings page where you can go see any previous meeting from the city, and it has the agenda. It will then now have the PowerPoint as well as this recording with every single meeting going forward. And so I wanted to make y'all aware of that change that's coming in 2023. Upcoming agenda topics and reminders. We do need to discuss the new meeting date for January. I did notify y'all that there is a conflict internally that we have here at the city for the January 11th meeting. I think I proposed January 18th. And so my question to y'all was, do you have any conflicts with moving it to the 18th? And if so, we can pick another date. Are you good? You good? Okay. Okay, so we will change that meeting to January 18th. And I will follow up with the board members who are absent to make sure the 18th would also work for them. I also sent y'all an email earlier either late last week or this week. You are required to take 2 open meetings and Public Information Acts training you're required to watch a video. At the end, it'll pop up a certificate. You need to screenshot that, send it to the city secretary's office. Both of those are due on January 16th. It is required. So I'm going to bug y'all until I have everyone's reported. And then I also sent the right of access form. Thank you, Robin, I did not attach it to that email. So I did send it as a separate email. There is a form that you need to complete and submit to the city secretary's office as well. That one's due as soon as possible, but I want all of it done by January 16th. So that's y'all's hard deadline, and I will continue to send reminders.
Hey, Dawn, can you confirm, like, I know I did it, but because it didn't go to you, it went to someone else. So next time you send the email, can you, not to shame anyone, or at least privately tell us it really went through when you got ours? So we're not thinking, oh, I'm getting this because you don't have it when I really did it.
Yes, I will start to remove the ones that have already submitted, and the reminders will only go out to who has not submitted. And thankfully, y'all have all completed the ethics training because Meredith did it at the last meeting, but Dr. Cox, there's only one additional ethics training that you'll need to take. I emailed you, so just make sure you either attend that date or get with the city secretary's office to make sure that you complete your ethics training. Any questions from the board?
Your number one thing on that last slide was subcommittee meetings, which we have not had
have
one
not had.
in months.
Yes.
Are you planning on re-implementing them, or you guys are just so flooded that I know those take some time?
Yeah, my goal is to get those reinstated after the holiday. We're still downloading all the information, and I'm trying to determine who's going to handle what now, because we have some new program employees that are handling different aspects. So that is our goal, is to start those back up to, I forget where the subcommittees left off on the various conversations, but we'll start those again in 23. So we'll be emailing probably over the holiday, asking for everyone's availability, what days of the week work best, and start to get those scheduled recurring. And that way it's on everyone's calendar. And so we can always cancel them, but we can keep them if there's topics to discuss.
Yeah, I wanted to try to flip some of the audience questions just so that they can get clarification. How is there a way that they can get in? Can they email you and then the information go to us, or is there a way that we can figure out a way for them to get information to us without writing us all letters?
Yeah, if somebody emails me and says, hey, I want this to go to the board, I don't have a problem with forwarding that to y'all, just like I do any of the communication that we have with agendas and upcoming things. So that's possible.
Okay, great. And then somebody mentioned the bylaws. Can we get a copy of our bylaws and possibly discuss them at a future meeting?
So we don't have specific bylaws for the Animal Advisory Board. We follow the city council policies and bylaws. And so that's where the verbiage came from for adding an agenda item on the meeting. That came from the city council policy. There's not a specific bylaw per board and commission. All boards and commission follow the city council policies.
Well, if we could see that, I'd like to see that. And then let's see, a few more, as far, just to go to the audience questions, as far as the press release and everything that happened then, personally, I've said before, but I am really impressed with the work that y'all did and the transparency and the honesty. Personally, I was extraordinarily impressed with how that was handled, because it's very hard when you've hired somebody who's does that sort of thing, just to admit everything. However, well, just to go to their question, can you explain the difference between a standard operating procedure and a press release, just to have answered that question?
So I think that question was related to, there's a discrepancy in the SOPs where it states two different things depending on what section you are in the SOP. There are consistencies, and that's part of what we're going to be doing, is cleaning that up and making it very clear what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. So yes, there is an inconsistency. One requires, I think it says a physical exam. And one talks about a consultation. It doesn't necessarily, like, both can happen because the animal could have been examined a day or two ahead and the vet says, just give me an update in 2 days, and we call and have a conversation. So they could both possibly happen, but it is a discrepancy that we're going to correct.
Okay, and then somebody else, sorry, I'm just trying to, you know, recognize the speakers. The Farah had mentioned having a strong foster program. Could we get an update? Could you give us an update on how we, oh, well, you did actually.
I did, yes.
You actually did. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
If we could see that in the future. And what about, I believe they had wanted a report on, do we have a final report about everything that happened?
No, we do not have a final report, and I know Meredith looks like she left. So that investigation was a human resources investigation. So we will not put out a report on a human resources investigation because those employees were terminated and or resigned. And outside of that, I mean, it's just an HR incident that we don't publish.
Okay, and then finally, I do appreciate the regionalization questions. I think they were answered, but the Legacy Foundation, are we working with them currently since they have us on their website?
I need to get with the person responsible who oversees the Legacy Foundation here at the city and see what they have done, because I do not know. So I can get an update from that and maybe even have them come or just have an update for y'all at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any other questions from the board?
Jen has answered, I asked all my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Y'all do. Okay. Oh, and just as a reminder, so the new date is January 18th. And then these are the dates that we have through August. I went ahead and just added those so that you can have them for your reference. Again, all meetings are being live streamed. So right now it is live streamed. At the top of the agenda that gets posted online, that YouTube link is there. When the minutes go out, the link to watch it again will be at the top of the agenda as well. So if anyone ever asks you, just have them look at the agenda item and they can click and watch and listen all that they want to. I'll hand it back to you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Adjourn.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, I have. Anyway,